Hope you all are doing well. Welcome back to part 3 of the first chapter. So in the first two videos, we completed the characteristics of living organisms. So this is what we've already done so far, and the classification systems. And in today's video, we're going to go over the features of organisms. So finally, this is the last subtopic. So if I'm not able to complete the features of organisms in this video, then hopefully I'll be covering it in the next video. So this is this part of the chapter, features of organisms. This is mostly a memory based chapter, okay? But I'll still make sure that you guys understand everything. So yeah, if you guys are enjoying these lectures, make sure to hit the like button and also hit the subscribe button, and also press down the notification bell so that you guys are notified about my upcoming videos. And if you guys have any suggestions, anything you guys want to share, make sure to drop them down in the comment section below, and let's get started. All right, so what are we going to discuss in this chapter? So we all know we have the 5 main kingdoms. These are the 5 main kingdoms: animals, plants, fungi, prokaryotes, and prototists. But what we are going to be basically looking over are the key features that each one of these organisms placed in these 5 kingdoms share, and what makes them unique from one another. Okay? That is what we are going to basically be going over. So let's get started. The first kingdom that we're going to go over is the plant kingdom. Okay? Now, one thing is very simple. We all know that plants are multicellular. Okay? This is a very basic point because you see, we have not seen plants that are like one cell. We have not seen any plants, and there are no plants that are unicellular. So that's a point that you guys don't even need to remember. Okay, that they're multicellular because they are multicellular. Okay, so not a very important, again, not a feature that you guys have not studied before. Okay, but what you guys have not done so far is how a plant cell looks like. Now this thing is going to be explained in much more detail in the second chapter. So make sure that you guys turn on all your notification bells because the upcoming videos are going to be really, really great. So you do not want to miss them out for your preparation for your exam. Okay? So here, what I just want you guys to go over is a typical plant cell. Okay? Again, I'm not going over the details of what is a cell membrane, what's the purpose of a cell membrane, chloroplast, nucleus, mitochondria, all of these things that you guys see. Cross them out. Cross them out right now from your brains. I just want you guys to focus on 2 things over here. Okay? So you guys can see over here, iska jo pehla part hai, this one. Okay, this color is not good. Wait a second. Okay, so you guys can see that this plant cell, a typical plant cell, okay, it's going to be having 2 layers. Okay? It's going to be having 2 membranes actually. The first inner membrane right here, this one is known as the cell membrane. So you get the inner one, this one right here. This one is known as the cell membrane, and then the outer one, this is known as the cell wall. So you get this one. I'm again highlighting it for you guys. This one. This is known as the cell wall. And the important thing to note over here is what the cell wall is actually made up of. That is what you guys need to remember right now, that this cell wall is made up of cellulose. Okay? So again, not going over what a cell wall is and all of that, just for now, just know that cell wall is an outer layer. Okay? It is an outer layer, and this is always present in all the plant cells. So we have 2. This cell membrane, this layer is present in almost all the cells. Okay, all the cells of all the kingdoms. But what is unique, what is this key feature that the other organisms in the other kingdoms they do not share, is this cell wall, which is made up of cellulose. So this is only unique to a plant cell. And the other thing which is mostly unique to a plant cell, it is this chloroplast. Now, what is a chloroplast? Chloroplast is this green color structure that you guys see over here, this one. This thing is actually known as a chloroplast. This organelle is known as a chloroplast, and this chloroplast basically, it just has one function, and that function is to do the process, to carry out the process of photosynthesis. I'm not gonna, I don't have enough space, but okay. So it basically carries out the process of photosynthesis. And what is photosynthesis? So it is the process by which plants, just know for now, okay? Again, a very detailed chapter. We're going to go over this in much more detail in the coming chapters. But for here, just know the basic that photosynthesis is a process in which plants basically make their own food by absorbing sunlight. And how do they absorb sunlight? Well, chloroplasts have a green color pigment, and this green color pigment is actually known as chlorophyll. Okay? So chlorophyll is the pigment in which chloroplast, it basically absorbs the sunlight for the process of photosynthesis, and in return it makes a food. And what is that food? That's basically a carbohydrate known as glucose. Okay? So it makes glucose. So that is something that is a unique feature for all the plants. Okay, that's a unique feature for the plant kingdom. So right now we have done 3 things over here. So again, if it does the process of photosynthesis, that means that it makes their own food, and that food, which I told you guys, is glucose, a carbohydrate. Not all of this is going to be used by the plant. Some of it is also going to be stored in the plant. And how is it going to be stored in the plant? It's going to be stored over here inside the plant cell, something like this. It's not written over here. It's not mentioned in the diagram, but I'll draw it for you guys over here. These red color things, these are present in plants, and these are known as starch granules. Okay? What are starch granules? Starch granules are basically granules. These are the organelles, not organelles, but like this is a place where plants, they tend to share their stored food. So they convert this glucose into starch. Okay? So they convert their glucose, which they made through the process of photosynthesis, and then they store the starch in starch granules. So this is also a unique feature that only plants do. Only the plant cells do. So again, and also a very basic point, that plants, they do not move from place to place. So I think these 2 points, though, we all know that they're multicellular and they do not move from place to place. Whereas these 3-4 points over here, you guys need to know them. And I hope that you guys understood so far. Not very hard ones. Okay, they're very easy to remember. So again, a key point, if you guys see any organism that can do the process of photosynthesis, and very important one, again, I'm highlighting again and again, that their cell wall. What is cell wall? Cell wall. It is an outermost layer in the plant cells, and then this is made up of the substance known as cellulose. This is only unique to the plant kingdom, and they also have a structure known as chloroplast, by which they do the process of photosynthesis, and they make their own food in the form of glucose, right? And then this glucose, the excess, because again, not the plants, they do not consume all the glucose made at the same time. They also have to store some of it. So they store it in the form of starch in the starch granules. I hope that this is clear. And now let's move ahead towards our second kingdom, which is the animal kingdom. Again, we're going to be going over the key features. This animal kingdom is actually extended. Okay? So these are just the basic features, what all the animals share. And then further on, we have further classified the plants into vertebrates and non-vertebrates, but we're going to go over them later on, not right now. Right now, we're just going over the basic structures, the basic things that they share. Okay, so again, just like plants, they're also multicellular. So not so this is a feature that plants and animals, they both share, that they're both multicellular. Okay? And here again, I'm going to show you a typical animal cell over here. As you can see, this is a typical animal cell, not going over the functions of what's written over here. Just literally just kind of ignore it for now. What I want you guys to focus on is the outer layer. Okay, just a second. It's not. There you go. Acha, so this outer layer over here, this is again made up of something known as a cell membrane. Okay, and we also saw the same layer in animal cell as well. So over here, we're also seeing the same thing, that this is a cell membrane. So it means that an animal cell, what does it lack? It does not have a cell wall. So there is no cell wall. And you guys also are seeing that it doesn't have any of the chloroplast that we saw in the plant cell. So there's also no chloroplast. So there are two things that are missing in an animal cell: a cell wall and a chloroplast. Okay? Now, if it does not have the organelle chloroplast present in the animal cell, then it means that it doesn't carry out the process of photosynthesis as well, right? So if it doesn't carry out the process of photosynthesis, that means that it doesn't make it its own food. And that's the reason why animals feed on other organisms. And we also come obviously in the category of animals. And so we gain our nutrition by feeding on other foods. We do not make our own food. Okay? And also remember that the food that we consume, the carbohydrates, right? I'm talking about the carbohydrates right here. So we also, just like plants, so plants, they store their carbohydrates in the form of starch inside starch granules, right? But animals, it stores it in the form of glycogen. Okay, so animals, they actually store their food in the form of glycogen. Okay, remember this as well. And again, another thing that animals do is, of course, a very simple one. We move from place to place, right? And also remember, we have a coordination system present. Now, what is a coordination? A nervous coordination system, a proper advanced nervous coordination system that is present in not in all animals, but we have a coordination system, a nervous coordination system present. Again, it itself is a very detailed chapter to be explained. Okay, so again, we're gonna go over this again over and over again. So yeah, that's all for animals. So again, another feature key thing written over here is that any organism that basically eats other organisms and it lacks cell wall, then it is definitely an animal. Okay. So now going on towards the third kingdom, which is the fungi. And fungi, you guys need to remember that fungi, they can be multicellular and they can be unicellular as well, because yeast is basically unicellular. Okay, yeast is a unicellular organism, so they can be both. It's not that they're usually multicellular. They are usually multicellular, but they can be unicellular as well. And they also have, their cells have a nucleus. So here I'm showing you a basic fungal cell, which is, so fungi is basically unicellular, right? And as you can see, they have an organelle known as a nucleus. Now, what is a nucleus? Nucleus is basically the organelle in which it's basically the brain of the cell. We call it as the brain of the cell. Why? Because it has all the DNA and the chromosomes in it. But yeah, you don't need to guys know the function right now, but just know that they have a nucleus present inside them. And you guys can also see that they also have two membranes. Okay, they also have two membranes. One is this inner one that you guys see. I'm drawing it in this red color, and the second one, it is this one. So this one is also the cell wall. But the unique thing about a fungi, about kingdom fungi, is that their cell wall is not made up of cellulose like plants. Instead, their cell wall is made up of something called as chitin. So that's an important point to note, that their cell wall, it is not made up of cellulose, it is actually made up of chitin. Okay? So that's again, and also one more thing. Do you guys see any chloroplast over here? No, they do not have any chloroplast as well. So they're missing on one thing from plants, and that is a chloroplast. So there's no chloroplast present over here. And if they do not have any chloroplast, that means that they're not going to carry out the process of photosynthesis, they're not going to make their own food, and hence they're going to feed on other organisms, right? And if they're going to feed on other organisms, now they are going to actually, the type of nutrition that they're going to feed on can be saprophytic or it can be parasitic. Now, what does saprophytic? Saprophytic means just dead or decaying material, and then parasitic means living material. So let me just give you guys an example. If you take a piece of bread, a slice of bread, and then you place it on the countertop on the kitchen for about a few days, you're gonna see mold developing on it, and I'm sure you guys have seen that as well. Even on decaying matter, you guys see that mold, the greenish stuff, the cotton greenish stuff present on such things. This is actually mold, and mold is again a fungi. It is a fungi because it is feeding on that dead and decaying matter, or it can also be feeding on a living matter. So because they do not have any chloroplast, and so they gain their nutrition by feeding on other organisms. So I hope that this point is also clear. And one important thing over here is that they store their carbohydrates as glycogen, just like animals. So this point right here, this is similar, all right? This is a feature that both animals, okay, both animals and both fungi, remember, both animals and both fungi are sharing over here, is that they both store their carbohydrates as glycogen. All right. What is glycogen? Glycogen is basically a form of carbohydrate. So if initially it was starch, and starch is just converted into glycogen, it is the storage form of carbohydrate. That's it. So important things, I'm going to go over once again over what you guys need to remember. Important stuff, that they have cell wall just like plants, but unlike plants, their cell wall is made up of chitin, and they do not carry out the process of photosynthesis because they do not have any chloroplast. So they're gonna be feeding on food, and then they store their carbohydrates in the form of starch. That's it. That's all the features that you guys need to know about fungi, not more than this. Now, moving ahead towards prokaryotes. A basic example you guys need to know is bacteria. Bacteria is a prokaryote. Let me show you how a typical bacterial cell looks like. This is how it looks like, and you guys also can see that it also has two membranes over here. This one, no, you guys don't. Wait. This one right here, this one is the inner one, and then an outer one. Again, the inner one is the same as cell membrane, shared by both the animals, the fungi, and the plant cells. But over here, you guys also see that they also have a cell wall, right? Just like fungi and plants, a bacterial cell, a prokaryotic cell, it also has a cell wall. But what's the differentiating thing? What's unique about this cell wall? This cell wall is not made up of cellulose. This cell wall is not made up of chitin. It's actually made up of a substance known as peptidoglycan. Remember this word, that their cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan and not cellulose and not chitin. Okay, it is known as peptidoglycan. So in all of these kingdoms, right, we have plants. So up till now we saw plants, we saw animals, we saw fungi, and right now we are going over prokaryotes. In all of these three kingdoms, only in these three kingdoms, a cell wall is found. But the unique thing, or what makes each of these cell walls different from, why have we placed these organisms if they all of the organisms that are in these in these kingdoms, they share one thing common, and that is a cell wall. So why have we placed them in separate kingdoms? It's because of what the cell wall is actually made up of. That's different in all three of these, and that is what makes them different. That is what makes them unique from each other. So remember, in plants the cell wall is made up of cellulose, in fungi it is made up of chitin, and in prokaryotes, which is a typical example you guys need to know, is a bacteria, here the cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan. I hope that this point is clear. ठीक है. One more thing that you guys can see over here is that a bacterial cell, it doesn't have any membrane bound organelles. What does this mean, that it doesn't have any membrane bound organelles? Membrane bound organelles basically means that over here you can see this, something is written as circular loop of DNA and plasmid. Both of these means basically DNA. Plasmid and this circular loop, all of this is DNA right here. But this DNA, they're not enclosed in an organelle like this. And this organelle in other cells is known as a nucleus, in which the DNA and the chromosomes are found, right? But here you guys can see that there is no DNA, there is no nucleus present over here. So that means that there are no membrane, and also I can also see no chloroplast over here, right? There is no chloroplast over here as well. So that's why we are saying that there are no membrane. There's no, this is also, and again, this is an important thing. So what's important to know about a prokaryotic cell? All right. So what is important to note over here? So again, they are mostly unicellular. Okay, I hope I do not have. Okay, so they're mostly unicellular. They have no nucleus. No nucleus. And if you remember there's no nucleus, then you also remember the third point also automatically, that there are no membrane bound organelles. And another thing, that they have a cell wall just like plants, just like fungi, but then their cell wall is not made up of cellulose, not made up of chitin, rather it is made up of something known as peptidoglycan. All right, that's it. Now let's go ahead over protalk tests. Now protalk tests are also mostly unicellular. Okay, so they're just like prokaryotes are also mostly unicellular, and they also have, but they have a nucleus. Okay, it's not that only the only kingdom that doesn't have a nucleus is prokaryotes. So prokaryotes is the only kingdom that doesn't have a nucleus. Except this, all of the kingdoms, they have a nucleus. So protoctists also have a nucleus, and one thing that is unique, very unique to this kingdom, and that's the reason why we have separated these organisms from the other ones, is that some of them, so it's not that all of them, some of them may have cell walls and chloroplasts, which means that some of them are actually, they some of them they actually feed on other organisms, whereas others which have the chloroplast and they have the cell walls, they actually make their own food by the process of photosynthesis. So it is 50-50, not 50-50, but like some of them. So it's not that all of them will have or all of them will not have. It's like they might have or they might not have. Okay? And again, so that's the reason why they do not fit in these kingdoms as well. And again, examples, we have these ones, these four ones if you want to remember: amoeba, algae, paramecium, and plasmodium. So yeah, that's it.